Hi, you're watching TV9 Digital. I'm Neha. The political violence in West Bengal is a never-ending saga. There's a long history to it. In fact, in this assembly election too, many people have lost their loved ones in the state's violence-laced political culture. The recent Sitalkuchi violence in Cooch Behar left 5 people dead. These 5 also included an 18-year-old. Were the dead at fault? Only an impartial investigation will bring the facts to light, but this is a near impossibility in the vitiated atmosphere in Bengal. And if you think that any party, be it the BJP, the TMC or the Left Congress Alliance, will take a note of it or help mitigate the situation, you would be expecting too much. Let me tell you this, the BJP, which has been taking a high moral ground, accusing Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee of inciting violence, seems only interested in making political capital out of it. Not for 8 people should have been shot dead in Sitalkuchi, the central forces should be issued a show cause notice asking why they killed only 4 and not 8. Goons are trying to deprive people of their democratic rights. Central forces responded appropriately. If this happens again, they will answer again. Quote unquote. These are not my words, but those of the senior state BJP leader Rahul Sinha, who I dare say knew the implications and still made this provocative statement. He did not stop there. He went on to say an 18-year-old boy was shot dead in public at a polling station for supporting BJP, and their leader is Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. He was talking about the 5th death of a young man, a Hindu, that took place in a separate incident on the day of 4th round of polling. The BJP's grouse was that Mamata Banerjee did not condole this person's death and only focused on the other 4 who belonged to a minority community. Now, if you think that's the only irresponsible statement from the BJP leaders, you would be wrong. Just before Sinha, in fact, State Party President Dilip Ghosh also warned of incidents similar to the Sitalkuchi one in various places if people took law into their own hands. We ask, where does this stop? When will the disturbing trend of politics versus people's lives be brought to an end in Bengal? I spoke to Supreme Court lawyer Dhananjay to understand the legalities as well. Welcome, Dhananjay. My first question to you would be, the BJP leader Rahul Sinha says not 4, 8 people should have been shot dead in Sitalkuchi. Now, does this not amount to inciting violence?
Well, it does amount to inciting violence, and it is in fact a crime. It's a well-recognized crime. The punishment is up to 3 years, and it's Section 505 of the Indian Penal Code. Public statements conducive to public mischief. So he could be booked under that provision. And the problem, however, is that the Election Commission deals with all of such infractions only in a civil way. That is, such people would tend to get barred from public campaigning for a period of 48 hours or 72 hours, and then that's it. They are back in the field. And that is why there is no deterrent. We've seen this happen over and over again. People have been barred from campaigning simply because they've in fact made statements conducive to public mischief or incitement to commit public violence. But the Election Commission doesn't go one step further. They don't create a report. They don't make a report and then forward it to the local police, because the local police would then be bound to register an FIR.
So you're saying that the Election Commission isn't really working meticulously and with alacrity to prevent this?
Absolutely. Very much. I have no doubt about it at all. The Election Commission is not being effective enough. They're not performing the role that has been given to them under the Constitution with the required diligence, with the required meticulousness.
Okay. Dhananjay, can these leaders be booked for these provocative statements? And if so, then what would be the charges framed against them?
Well, first of all, Section 505 of the Indian Penal Code speaks about anyone making a statement or doing anything that has the effect of inciting violence on the part of others, right? Now, public statements. Now, it's not like if someone is privately talking to another and that's recorded and someone is to broadcast surreptitiously. That's not the case. But these are all public statements, public exhortations that were made by these individuals. So it amounts to 505 of the Indian Penal Code, there's a punishment of up to 3 years. Now, many of such statements sometimes are intended to create feelings of ill will between different religious groups, right? In that event, you have Section 153A, even then the punishment is 3 years. Now, sometimes the punishment could be much, much higher under other provisions if the statement is so severe and it in fact leads to immediate violence. So
Right.
these are laws that we've had in our statute books well since 1860. It's not like these are innovations. And our lawmakers probably don't know about these because they have not been, dealt with the iron hand that the law requires that they be dealt with. So, election commission, yes.
Right. Dhananjay, we've often seen political leaders making these statements and, sort of getting away with it. So you did mention about Section 505 just now, and under these, leaders can get a minimum imprisonment of up to 3 years. But we haven't, seen it being implemented largely. Why is that?
Well, that is because now the election commission is the one that has a great apparatus here, recording devices. They have teams of people who are collecting statements, or for that matter, who are collecting clippings and video recordings and all that. They are in the best possible position to make, thinkers copies of all of that and then to lodge a complaint with the local police. Now, I'm always surprised why the election commission does not do so. Because if someone else were to go to the local police and take a paper statement made by, let's say, X or Y, and the police were to start acting on that, the police can't be as effective had it been the election commission themselves complaining by giving diverse sources. Now, you can't just rely on one newspaper cutting, you can't just rely on one clipping in the media. But when the election, because very often these public campaigns are also attended by election commission officials, they have recordings of their own. So the election commission, is best suited to complain. And the problem is they don't complain. And the ones who normally complain are very often people attached to the opposite political parties. And that is why the investigation is not very effective in those cases. And even if it were effective,
Are you saying that the election commission also somewhere works at the behest of the government?
no, not at all. I'm not saying so. That's because it works both ways, right? I mean, there are statements made by political camps on all the sides. So I'm not saying election commission works for the central government or so, because the election commission is apparently independent. And from what we can see, the election commission does every time. I mean, when we see how it bungles, it's not possible to say that they're working for the central government at all.
Okay.
It's fair to say that they are not doing a good job that we're meant to do. And I don't see partisanship here at all.
In the latest, the Election Commission has barred Rahul Sinha from campaigning for 48 hours. These statements came even as Home Minister Amit Shah continued to accuse Mamata Banerjee of inciting violence by saying, "Gherao Central Forces." Thank you very much for joining me. If at all you like the information that I've shared, do not forget to subscribe to TV9 Digital across all social media platforms. Stay safe.